September 11th, 2001, dawned like any other Tuesday. The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky with soft pinks and oranges. At Newark International Airport, now called Newark Liberty International Airport, travelers bustled about, eager to reach their destinations. Flight 93 was preparing for its journey to San Francisco. Passengers, a mix of business people, students, and families, checked in, collected their boarding passes, and made their way through security. Some grabbed a quick coffee or a newspaper. Others chatted excitedly about their upcoming trips. Inside the plane, flight attendants greeted passengers with warm smiles, helping them find their seats and stow their luggage. The hum of the aircraft filled the cabin as the pilots prepared for takeoff. Everything seemed perfectly normal, unaware that this ordinary morning was about to become anything but. No one could have imagined the horror that awaited them, or the incredible bravery they would soon display. The air crackled with anticipation, not of danger, but of new adventures and reunions. But the routine was soon disrupted. As the passengers settled in, an announcement crackled over the intercom. Flight 93 would be delayed. "We apologize for the inconvenience," the pilot's voice explained. "There is some congestion in the air traffic control system. We expect to be underway shortly." Little did anyone know this delay would prove to be a strange twist of fate. While they waited on the tarmac, other planes were already in the air, hijacked and headed towards their targets. The delay meant that the passengers of Flight 93 would have precious extra time they would desperately need to understand what was happening and to decide what to do. Minutes ticked by. Some passengers dozed off while others impatiently checked their watches. The delay stretched on, creating a growing sense of unease. What was causing such a long wait? The answer, when it finally arrived, would be more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. The world outside their windows was changing in ways they couldn't yet comprehend. Finally, Flight 93 took off. As the plane climbed into the sky, the world below seemed peaceful and serene. But inside the cabin, a different kind of storm was brewing. Passengers began receiving phone calls. News was spreading like wildfire about the attacks in New York City. The World Trade Center, a symbol of American strength, had been struck. Then came the reports from Washington, D.C. The Pentagon was also on fire. At first there was disbelief, confusion, and shock. How could such a thing happen? But as more calls came in, a horrifying realization began to dawn. This wasn't just an accident. These were deliberate attacks. People on the ground were desperately trying to reach their loved ones on Flight 93, warning them of the danger and urging them to be careful. The once ordinary flight was now hurtling towards an unknown destiny, carrying passengers armed with terrifying knowledge. The pieces started to fall into place, forming a terrifying picture. The passengers shared what they knew, whispering urgently to each other. 3 planes had already been hijacked and used as weapons. Was Flight 93 next? They looked around the cabin, their eyes scanning for anything suspicious. Then it happened. A group of men, who had boarded the plane seemingly unnoticed, suddenly stood up. They wore red bandanas and carried boxes. The passengers watched in horror as the men shouted and brandished knives. It was clear. They were being hijacked. The passengers on Flight 93 weren't just witnesses to a tragedy unfolding on the ground. They were now part of it. They understood that their plane was likely intended to be another weapon, another missile aimed at an American target. The chilling realization spurred them into action. They had to do something. Their lives, and the lives of countless others, depended on it. Fear mixed with a steely resolve filled the cabin. The passengers knew they had a choice to make: surrender or fight. They quickly began to discuss their options, using the onboard phones to connect with loved ones and gather advice. "They have knives, but we have numbers," one passenger argued. "We can't just sit here and wait to die." The decision was made. They would fight back. It was a desperate gamble, but they believed it was their only chance. They knew the risks were enormous, but the thought of their plane being used to kill innocent people fueled their determination. The passengers, now united by a common purpose, started to formulate a plan. They would wait for the right moment and then rush the hijackers together. It was a terrifying plan, but it was a plan. They were ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances, and they were ready to do whatever it took to protect themselves and their country. The weight of the world rested on their shoulders. The passengers started gathering makeshift weapons, food trays, drinks cans, anything that could be used to inflict pain or create a distraction. They whispered words of encouragement to each other, their voices trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. They divided themselves into groups, each with a specific task. Some would target the hijackers guarding the cockpit, while others would focus on those in the main cabin. They knew that timing was crucial. They needed to act quickly and decisively. One of the passengers, Todd Beamer, famously rallied the others with a powerful phrase. He was overheard on the phone saying, "Are you ready? Okay, let's roll." It was a call to action, a declaration of their intent to fight for their lives and for their country. That simple phrase became a symbol of the courage and resilience displayed on Flight 93. It was the moment they transformed from ordinary passengers into heroes. The plan was set. The time to act was near. With a surge of adrenaline, the passengers launched their counterattack. A wave of people surged forward, yelling and throwing whatever they could find. The hijackers, caught off guard, struggled to maintain control. A fierce struggle erupted in the cabin. Passengers fought with incredible bravery, using their makeshift weapons to defend themselves. The hijackers fought back, trying to protect the cockpit and maintain control of the plane. The battle moved towards the front of the aircraft. Passengers, knowing that the cockpit held the key to regaining control, focused their efforts on breaching the door. They used a food cart as a battering ram, slamming it against the cockpit door again and again. The sounds of the struggle echoed through the plane, shouts, screams, and the crashing of objects. The fate of Flight 93 and the lives of everyone on board hung in the balance. The courage of these ordinary people, fighting against overwhelming odds, was truly extraordinary. Inside the cockpit, the hijackers fought desperately to maintain control of the aircraft. The pilots had already been overpowered, and the hijackers were now at the controls. But the relentless assault from the passengers was making it increasingly difficult to fly the plane. The sounds of the struggle echoed even louder inside the small space. The hijackers yelled in Arabic, while the passengers shouted in English, their voices filled with anger and determination. The plane lurched violently as the hijackers fought to regain their bearings. Despite the chaos, the passengers continued their assault, fueled by their unwavering courage and their determination to prevent the plane from reaching its intended target. They knew that every second counted, and that the fate of countless lives rested on their shoulders. The struggle in the sky was a testament to the human spirit's ability to rise to extraordinary challenges in the face of unimaginable adversity. The bravery of those passengers resonates even today. Amidst the chaos and the fighting, a passenger named Elizabeth found a moment of quiet. Clutching her phone tightly, she dialed her husband. The connection was shaky, filled with static, but she could hear his voice, a beacon of love in the midst of the horror. "Honey, it's me," she said, her voice trembling. "We're being hijacked." She quickly explained the situation, her words tumbling out in a rush. She told him about the other planes, about the fight, about the bravery of her fellow passengers. "I love you so much," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to know that I love you with all my heart." Her husband's voice broke with emotion. "I love you too, Elizabeth. Be brave." "I will," she promised. "Goodbye, my love." The line went dead. Elizabeth closed her eyes, clutching the phone to her chest. She had said her goodbye. She was ready. She would fight with every ounce of strength she had left. The struggle for control of Flight 93 continued, but the hijackers, realizing they were losing, made a terrible choice. Rather than allowing the passengers to regain control, they crashed the plane. Flight 93 plummeted from the sky, crashing into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The impact was devastating. There were no survivors. The crash site became a place of mourning, a field of remembrance for the brave souls who had fought so valiantly. Flowers, flags, and messages of love and support were left as tributes to the passengers and crew who had given their lives. While the ending was tragic, the story of Flight 93 is not one of defeat. It is a story of courage, resilience, and selflessness. The passengers and crew of Flight 93, in their final moments, chose to fight back, preventing the plane from reaching its intended target. They sacrificed themselves to save countless others. Their bravery will never be forgotten. The story of Flight 93 is a story that should never be forgotten. It is a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable horror, ordinary people are capable of extraordinary acts of bravery. The passengers and crew of Flight 93 were not soldiers or trained heroes. They were everyday people who rose to the occasion, making a conscious decision to fight for what they believed in. Because of their actions, the intended target of Flight 93 was never reached. It is believed that the target was either the United States Capitol building or the White House in Washington, D.C. The bravery of those on board saved countless lives that day. Let us remember them, not for how they died, but for how they lived. Let us remember their courage, their selflessness, and their unwavering determination. They are heroes, and their story will continue to inspire generations to come. May their memory be a blessing, and may we never forget the passengers who knew too much and did everything they could.